You were born to thrive. You were born to feel alive. Every single second of your life. Your life. Your life. Your life. Hello, welcome everybody to this new episode of Success Stories of Expat Women. They did it, so can you. My name is Eva Sonders. I am an inspirational singer and songwriter, as you could hear, and I'm also an empowerment coach helping women, especially expat women, because this is also my story and my experience to thrive professionally and personally. It's connected anyway. So if you moved recently or maybe even a few years ago and you still struggle professionally, you cannot find your place, know that it's not a lost case. We are a lot going through this experience, and especially know that you can overcome it and you can thrive. It's here for everyone. I do believe for you too. I am so happy to welcome today Karina Schneider. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Eva. Pleasure to meet you. I've been looking forward to talking to you. I've enjoyed all the other conversations you've had. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. Okay, let us start at the beginning. I'd like to know where are you from? What brought you to Switzerland and which part of Switzerland do you live?
Okay. So like you said, I'm Karina Schneider. I'm looking forward to connecting with your audience. I am currently located in Zurich, Switzerland. I come from the Philippines. I am of Indian ethnicity, but my mom had moved to the Philippines after she and my dad got married. So I was born there. I studied there. And also went through my first employment experiences in the Philippines. And then with my latest employer, there was an opportunity to go through a rotational program that was intended to learn global experiences, get international experience as part of career development. So it was this opportunity where I said, I've never lived abroad, I've never worked abroad, I have no idea, but it feels like I need to say yes. So it was a very gut instinctual decision to apply for the program, and I made it into the program. So back in 2011 was when I first left the Philippines. I moved to Switzerland. I spent a year here, and then I moved to Costa Rica for half a year, and then another half a year in San Francisco, and then came back to Switzerland and never left. So that's how
Wow.
I got
So it's
here.
multiple expat experience. Very
Yeah.
interesting for us. I'm looking forward to know more.
Yeah, it was a very
Wonderful.
condensed 2 years of multiple expat experiences
Yeah,
before I settled in Switzerland. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm really very curious to know about your what did you study? What did you start? What was your career path in Philippines, and then what happened when you came abroad?
Okay. Yeah. So I studied psychology and marketing management
Mm-hmm.
for university, and I grew up in a environment where kind of the assumption is you go into becoming an entrepreneur, you set up a business, you become a business person. That was just the way kind of our culture, reinforced some of these beliefs and some of these ideas and role models. But I knew that I wasn't really comfortable being an entrepreneur back then, and there's a twist to that story down the road. So I really wanted to look more into psychology and human behavior. So um, I wasn't really sure what I was trying to do by doing marketing. I think marketing was a safety net of like the just in case, because I didn't really know what other career professions could exist with psychology, like maybe become a teacher, right? So I
Yeah,
really wasn't
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But I got an opportunity to work for a learning and development consulting firm after university, and I really really enjoyed the idea of being part of a process that help other people learn about themselves, become better professionals, become better individuals. So that's how my HR career actually started. Um,
Wow. How this
so
is how to help others to grow, actually.
yeah, yes,
What did you do
definitely.
exactly at that time? What did you do
Yes.
exactly?
So in my first job, I was very much working behind the scenes. I was helping other facilitators and trainers
Hmm.
by understanding client requirements, recommending which programs to run, and then kind of like doing the program administration in the background.
Yeah.
But as my career progressed, then I also got a little bit more front of the stage. So I became a trainer, a facilitator, a course developer myself. And then when I moved to Switzerland, as I grew my career in HR, I started to also perform other HR roles like business partnering and compensation. But I have to say, my heart is really in learning and development. I mean, I always just enjoy being a part of that process, of facilitating that learning journey for others.
So how was it when you came first time abroad? What did you experience? What was hard? What was easy? Tell us a bit about this experience going from Philippines to Switzerland.
Yeah. Well, um, it was, of course, difficult because having never lived alone, never been in an international environment, to suddenly move halfway across the world, there definitely were, very fundamental challenges of you don't have your safety net, you don't understand the language. I remember my first trip to the Migro or to the Coop, and like you see all of these products, and you're like, I don't know which one. I'm likely gonna make a mistake here. I'm gonna buy something I don't really need because you just don't understand your environment. Um, but the thing is, the difference back then was it was a year, right? So there was this mindset of I'm here for a year.
Yeah,
So it was but natural working also for an international organization that my life back then revolved around my work.
yeah.
So my friends came from my workplace, my social activities came from my workplace, my learning came from my workplace,
And
and then I
maybe
had
they
to
were
move.
in the same situation. They were expats. Yeah,
They were expats themselves, so we were all kind of going through this together. So it also compensated for the difficulty of being so far away from
yeah,
family
yeah,
and from the systems and the process that I knew. And then I had different versions of that experience when I moved to Costa Rica and San Francisco to varying degrees. Of course, in San Francisco, because we all spoke English, that was almost, it just made a lot of things so much easier
easier. Yeah,
to manage with language. But definitely all of those three experiences had elements of struggle, of loneliness, of feeling like you don't know what's happening around you, and then
yeah,
just consuming yourself with work and travel to compensate for it.
yeah, yeah. So, do you have any tip or trick for expat women when you really felt lonely and it was hard?
Yeah.
Um, what did you do exactly? How did you deal with it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there are different things that help me, and
Hmm.
hopefully it also helps your audience. One was I had to remind myself why I moved.
Hmm.
I think people move for different reasons. And in my case, it was a choice I made, right? I was the one who consciously said, I'm going to pack my bags and go. So reminding myself of the bigger purpose was really helpful
Yeah,
because it's so easy to feel like a victim of the circumstance. And I knew that if I feel like I'm a victim of my circumstance, I feel less empowered. I feel like I can't do anything to fix my
absolutely.
situation, right? So reminding myself why I was doing it was important. Um, I am not a good example of this, but I think making the effort to learn the language is really important
Yeah,
because we recognize that so much of your experience comes through language, so much of connection with other people comes through language. And I know in Switzerland myself, it took me a while to realize the importance of it. And on hindsight, I would have started that process sooner.
yeah,
Um, and the third thing is to never feel like we're alone. I think we sometimes forget that it's natural as human beings to want to connect and to relate with others, and seeking out other people, whether they're peers like you or mentors or coaches or people who've been there, done that, um, is really important because they can offer a perspective that you might not have. They can open doors that you might not be aware of, and it just reduces the feeling of loneliness, and sometimes insecurity, right, when you're in a foreign place.
Yeah.
So those were the three things I would, at least with my own experience, I really
Yeah,
learned from.
absolutely. And in my experience, doing because sometimes we need to make an effort because when we are a bit down, that's not the moment where we want to meet someone. But when we
Right.
overcome this resistance and we get out and we connect with others, very often treasures are discovered.
Yeah.
So for me, there is always this reward. I had the courage to overcome
Yeah.
this resistance or this feeling low or whatever, getting
Yeah.
out and wow, very often there is a reward of wow, I really love that person. Oh, what an interesting
Yeah.
point of view. Oh, I have a new idea now. I have a new opportunity. So it's
Right.
like, yeah, it's hard, but if we can go beyond,
Yeah.
like new doors, new opportunities are there.
Yeah, I remember somebody giving advice to me way back when I was new to Switzerland, and she said to me, "Never say no to an invitation the first time." And I thought that that was a really powerful advice because when we're in an unfamiliar environment, it's easy to say no, right? We're
Yeah,
afraid, we want to
yeah,
take care of ourselves, we fear rejection, we don't want to embarrass ourselves. We have all of these concerns in our minds. But when somebody extends an invitation and people are genuinely kind and welcoming, um, the first instinct should be to just say yes and be curious,
yes.
right? Like, what
Curiosity,
is
yes,
this
absolutely.
experience
Hmm.
going to bring? And we can always say no down the road if we realize it's not for us. But I thought that was really helpful advice that I really took with me ever since then, because the world just opens up by
Yeah.
saying yes to things.
I spoke to several women from Asia, especially from India, and they have all the same feeling like Switzerland. Swiss people in Switzerland is very closed, cold,
Mhm.
not very welcoming. Was it
Mhm.
your experience too, and how did you deal with this culture shock?
Um, so I think there's truth to the fact that it's not as warm as, for example, in the Filipinos will, they will just talk to you even if they don't know you, right?
Okay.
Here I reframed the stereotype of being close to people are just very polite and they're protective of their privacy and their
Private life,
space,
yes.
their
Hmm.
personal space, right? So and I also appreciate that side, because I remember every time I go back home I get uncomfortable with the strangers who want to know so many things about me, because I'm like, like I have my privacy, and I would want to not talk about certain
Yeah.
things. So I've reframed this initial impression, because I think the locals I've met are, well, some of my closest friends are Swiss.
Yes.
And I think it just requires, one, just be open. It doesn't matter if you're Swiss or you're German or you're Spanish or Italian. It's just I'm genuinely interested in you as a person. And
Absolutely.
is there something common we can connect on? And my local friends, it just really started from that. It's just genuine curiosity and interest for the other person.
Yeah.
My husband was born in Switzerland. He's not Swiss by ethnicity, but he was born here. I never imagined, right, that was going to happen,
Yeah.
because we have stereotypes in our minds. But in the end, people are people. We're all individuals.
Yes.
We have genuine uniqueness in all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let us go back to your professional path. So, what brought you back to Switzerland after these several experiences in America?
Yeah. So after the rotational program, so that was for 2 years, the goal was then to find a permanent job. And at that point, it really was either I go back home to the Philippines, or I I thought that maybe long term career wise, it was more strategic to find a job in Switzerland because the headquarter organization was in Switzerland. And I
Okay.
thought I'd have many more options to grow
Yeah.
if I came back. So I worked really hard to find a job back within my employer. And so I think probably what makes it different from other people who move is that I had my employer support that transition back
Yeah.
into Switzerland.
Mhm. Well,
So
still
that's
you
what
had
I
to do
did.
the job because you had the idea, you had already connections and your employer who could support you, but it doesn't mean necessarily and automatically that you would find job. So
Yeah.
what did you do? How did it happen? Even though you were supported, then I do believe you had to do your part.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely had to apply for the jobs and to go through the interviews. And in fact, it was rejection after rejection. It was
Wow.
really, I was unsure it was going to happen. So it
Wow.
was a very humbling time because I thought, wow, after going through these 2 years, you would think, it's a shoe in, but it wasn't, right? I really had to prove my potential and my ability to do the jobs until finally, with the support of other mentors and other advocates, I was able to find a job to come back to. And as you said, it's really not easy because this time it's like it's the long term.
Yeah.
You're not anymore in a program, you're in a real job. It's a full-time job in a country you don't know. And you have to set up your life, right? In
Yeah.
a country that, I visited for a year and then is now, a long-term location. So
Yeah.
that's how I came back.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you mentioned that you went through rejections because sometimes when we see someone who is successful and very well in her shoes and doing very well in her job, it's like, oh, maybe she's a lucky one and I'm not.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't believe in a luck with the hard work that was furnished. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, what did you do when you faced these rejections? What did you do to keep going? How did you keep motivating yourself?
I mean, it was really tough because I thought, okay, what's my plan B, right? So I think one was to start to get comfortable with what a plan B could look like was important. I
Yeah,
really have learned not to put all my eggs in one basket
yeah,
because life is so unpredictable. Some things can just show up one day and disappear the next. So
yeah.
I had to start getting comfortable with maybe I have to go back home, right? Maybe there's a reason why I
Wow.
had to go through the 2 years
Okay.
and go back home,
Yeah,
which is not a bad thing. My family was there. So of course it's also good to be close to family.
absolutely.
I also have to say, I think there are individuals who really stood by me throughout that time. People who said, we believe in you and we're going to do the best that we can to help you.
Wow.
And that's kind of connected to the advice that I mentioned earlier, which is the sooner you create connections of individuals who can show you what are the possibilities that you can't see for yourself, or people who believe so much in you that they will speak for you and they will fight for you and they will open doors for you. I think it just goes a really long way, particularly when you're not in your home environment. And I have to say that confidence that I got from other people's belief in me kept me going. So there were
Wow.
delays in the timelines and permits and things like that. But in the end, I was just incredibly grateful and humbled that there are enough people who believed in me to help make that move happen.
That's tremendous. I love that you are mentioning this because now we can really see it's like not only me. It's not only me. It's like a team. Who were these supporters? Are whether your friends or your mentors, your coaches? Who were your employers? Who were there? Who were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. I mean, I really encourage people to always remember they're not in this fight alone.
Okay.
Never. You just need to find out who these individuals are. And I always believe in the kindness of humans, right? There's always a desire to help other people if you find them, if you know where to find them. And that's
Wow.
just been tremendous for me.
Mm. I love when you say you are never in this fight alone.
No,
Wow.
no.
Thank you. Thank you. So, your fight was successful. You got your job in Switzerland, long-term job.
I did. So I continued on my HR career until about 2 years ago. And then, as usual, right, the unpredictability of life experiences happen. And I suffered through a burnout about 2 years ago.
Mm.
And that's, I think for other individuals who may have gone through the same thing, it was a real moment to kind of reassess and rethink some of the choices and think about what needs to be different. So I've since left my employer
Okay.
and have recently established my own coaching and consulting practice. So it's a bit of a life
Wow.
experiment to see where this goes.
Congratulations.
It's been fun. It's been fun. But yeah, it's again, you have to go through the struggles to also experience the beauty on the other side. So.
Absolutely. Wow. So, in which field do you coach today? What's your expertise, and who do you help?
Yeah. So there are two streams to the work that I do, but they're both linked to the concept of well-being because
Okay.
it comes from a deep belief that everybody has a potential that deserves to be expressed in the world. I really feel for people who feel like they have talents and skills and they can't do it. So my work with one-to-one coaching is to help individuals who are going through significant life transitions to feel like they are in charge and they are empowered of that life transition and that they get to the other side feeling healthy and feeling productive. And in many cases, as you know, with the work that you do, when people move countries, sometimes we forget that we can still be in charge of our experiences and our circumstances. We just maybe need a little bit of help. So that's what I do on the coaching side. And then on the consulting side, I usually work with other consultants, other organizations who talk about things like diversity and inclusion, mental health, psychological safety, because those are other angles you can look at organizationally or in the workplace to support the well-being of your employees as well. So that's kind of the two spaces I work in right now.
So, how can you relate your past experience to what you are doing today? Because I do believe you are the best at something you really went through, we experience on ourselves.
Yeah. So I think there's two things. I mean, my HR experience was definitely informative in understanding what the employee experience is like in an organization from the time that they interview to the time that they leave. It's a very rich experience. And I believe that employers have an important role that they play in supporting the well-being of their individuals and to help them perform to their best potential. So my HR experience was definitely informative. And I think my experience around burnout was also helpful to understand that sometimes we go through life changes as though they were events. Oh, I have a move to make. I need to go to a new job. I'm now becoming a parent, and everything is focused on the event. And we forget that there's an identity shift or an identity evolution that also needs to happen. And in my case, I don't think I really processed how my identity had to evolve after becoming a mom. And I'm still striving to be this, high performer at work and being the reliable performer and being present all the time and doing more than what I can humanly do. And
Yeah.
so I think recognizing that life events also require an internal shift was something that I had to learn through my burnout experience, and which is what I hope I can also impart to others who might be going through the same thing.
This is exactly what I wanted to say. This is what you can help others now with. That when there is a huge shift, we do not remain the same. Like becoming a mom is such a huge shift that
Yeah,
it's like you go through one door and there is no way back.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
no way back.
You're
Going
forever
through
changed.
for me, going through burnout, it's nearly the same. It's like there was there was one before and one after, and it's different. It's
Yeah.
totally
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
And
I definitely agree. Yeah.
and if you can have someone skilled next to you that will hold you the hand through this transition,
Yeah.
who knows what it is,
Yeah.
who knows how you feel,
Yeah.
then Well, it can always it will remain challenging. It is a challenge, but it can go in a much smoother way than
Yeah,
if you did it on your own.
right.
Hmm.
Yes, there's a lot of cost to experiences like this, right? So if we can help reduce that cost to other people and rather speed up or accelerate their ability to thrive or to reintegrate or to feel successful, then I think it's well worth the effort to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely, I do agree. So please tell us, how can maybe potential people who could be interested in what you do, maybe who are close to burnout right now, who feel they are in the middle of the storm of transition, and they feel, oh, she knows exactly what it is. I want to get in touch with her. How they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, I think the easiest way is to either visit my website, which is simply karinaschneider.com. So you'll learn more about me. There are ways to connect with me through the website. I'm also more active on LinkedIn. So if they also find my name on LinkedIn, I'm happy to get to know others and yeah, offer maybe a piece of advice or some support, definitely.
Okay, and I will put the link of your website in the
Yeah, thank you.
introduction, so it's easy for people to just click
Yeah.
and then get there very fast and easily. Okay. Thank you, Karina, for all your sharing, for all your experience, your wisdom. I do really feel like a peer, like a colleague, and I'm so, so glad I reached to. It's always
Thank
a
you.
surprise for me because on purpose I don't investigate about my guests. I love really like discovering them in a real time. And
Yeah,
it's a
that's
pleasure
great.
to meet
Yeah.
a colleague, and thank you very much for what you are doing. I do believe with all your experience, your what you can offer to others is high quality, and I can also feel your like expectation on yourself
Thank
and others.
you.
So I do believe it's first class quality.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you very
And
much.
before we leave, I'd like just to ask you, already gave us a few tips. If there is any last word about um, a piece of advice to these women who listen to us and who go through this hardship and rejection and not finding their place, and maybe they feel like, oh, I even don't know if I want to do what I did before. Maybe
Yeah.
not, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel lost. What would be
Yeah.
last piece of advice you would give them?
Maybe the one last thing that is different from what I already shared is really be kind to yourself. It sounds really simple, but I think it's sometimes we forget because we come with all these expectations and we tend our inner voices tend to sometimes tell us otherwise how great we are as individuals for even taking a courageous step to move out of our home environment. So definitely looking at ways to take care of yourself, establish the healthy foundations of good sleep, good exercise, good nutrition, and a good support system, and build from there. So that's maybe going back a bit to the basics, but sometimes we forget. So be kind to yourself.
Thank you very much, Karina. That's a huge pleasure to be here today with you. I wish you all the best, a lot of joy and a lot of happiness seeing your clients going through their transition and reaching this other side where they can
Thank
stand
you.
on their own feet and creating their beautiful professional thriving again. You are watching Success Stories of Expat Women. I'm Eva Sanders, empowerment coach for women. If you feel lost right now, if you feel it's right fit for you, get in touch with me. I'll be very happy to offer you 45 minutes clarity session, which is free, which will give you a huge, huge, huge value. No matter what you decide after you want to walk with me, amazing. Let us do it. You don't, that's okay, but know that everyone who signed up for a free clarity session came out with wow. This
I can
feeling of
believe that.
um, lightness. And now I have a plan. I have at least a few concrete steps that I can undertake in order to get closer to this thriving life. So if it's right for you, get in touch with me, send me the direct message, get in touch, ask for a session, and let us connect and let us see what amazing life we can figure out for you together. I'll be very happy to hear from you. Remember, you were born to thrive. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you.
Bye
All the
bye.
best. Bye.